I'm Loren Steffi, business columnist for the Houston Chronicle, and welcome to Friday Bookshelf. Today we're going to be talking about Private Empire, ExxonMobil and American Power, a new book by Steve Cole, who's a writer for The New Yorker. Now, the first thing you notice when you pick up this book is that it seems heavy, even for a hardback. And I think that may not be completely an illusion because Steve Cole did a tremendous amount of research in writing this book. He did more than 400 interviews. He dug through thousands of documents. He literally traveled the world to understand Exxon's global operations. For the average reader, some of the detail that he reveals in this may be a little bit too much inside baseball. We already know, for example, that Exxon is a very large and very powerful corporation. We know that it wields political influence all around the world. How it does that and some of the intricacies of its power may not be of interest to general readers, but if you're interested at all in the energy business, I think you'll find this book very revealing. The premise, the time frame that Cole uses in looking at this is from the Exxon Valdez spill through the Deepwater Horizon disaster, and it really shows in many ways the evolution of Exxon's corporate culture, which I found particularly interesting. As most of us know, Exxon did not do a great job of handling its response to the Valdez spill, but internally it did make an awful lot of changes, and a lot of those were in the form of safety. And I thought it was very interesting that by the time the Deepwater Horizon disaster happened, the Presidential Spill Commission that investigated that accident cited Exxon as the gold standard for safety, especially in offshore operations. So that shows you something of how the company evolved over time, and Cole documents a lot of those changes in this book. Perhaps one of the most interesting parts of it is the transition of CEOs from Lee Raymond to Rex Tillerson. Now, Tillerson did not talk to Cole for the book, but Lee Raymond did and gave extensive interviews, and so that provides some additional insight into what the CEO was thinking and how the company was changing over time. One particularly interesting piece of the story is after Tillerson had taken over, how Exxon began to soften its views on climate change. Lee Raymond, of course, was a staunch opponent of climate change and any climate change legislation. By the time Tillerson came along, he realized that public opinion and public policy had really moved past where the company was and that the company needed to make some changes. Unfortunately, as Cole points out, by the time Tillerson came around to that line of thinking, the debate had moved on again, and so Exxon, in many ways, is still playing catch-up. It's an interesting part of the story. It was also excerpted in the New Yorker a few months ago. But it was the thing that I think not only did I find most interesting as a reader, but I recently spoke to a group of ExxonMobil retirees, and that particular part of the book was the thing they talked about the most too. They liked the contrast between the two CEOs and the discussion of the transition of power and how the thinking changed at the top. So if you get a chance and you're interested in the inner workings of one of the biggest companies in America, check out Private Empire, and it's been out on the stores for a while. I think you'll find it an interesting read, and certainly you'll appreciate the amount of work that went into this book. For the Houston Chronicle, I'm Loren Steffi.